back again with another episode of The Real Deal. Today, we have a very special guest, but I'll intro ourselves first. I'm Sam.
I'm Nick.
I'm Naz.
You already knew that. And today we have Natalie on the show. Maybe you can give yourself an intro. I already said her name, but we're used to that. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Servello. I'm actually Sam's big sister. And I'm excited to be on The Real Deal today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you for joining us. What an honor. To what do we owe this pleasure? Natalie Servello.
It's about time.
I'm sorry, you're too busy for us. It's been 3 seasons. I had to book you in. Okay, so Nat, thanks for coming on. In all seriousness, we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of changes.
That's for sure.
But we wanted to save your episode for this very moment because you've had so much up your sleeve these last few months, and the world needs to know, who is Natalie Servello? What is she doing? What did she do? Where did she go?
What does she currently do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with the background because I don't think even the boys really know details of background.
I do not.
So this is a good place to start.
Hey, you're gonna get to know Nat.
So I have a degree in fashion communication from Ryerson. I did part of that degree in Amsterdam. So I have a branding minor where I worked for a magazine while I was living there. Super cool experience. When I came back to Toronto, I ended up launching my own clothing brand. Essentially, the brand was based off a book I wrote for my thesis. So the goal was to promote healthy beauty standards, essentially remove the societal beauty standards that were created just, I guess, through like the fashion industry. So that's what the book focused on. And then I realized that this could be so much more. So the goal was to have a fully inclusive, fully diverse clothing brand that everyone could essentially see themselves in fashion marketing that they did not essentially see themselves prior to. And the reason for this is because I grew up being bullied, and the only thing that kind of saved me was fashion. And a lot of people didn't essentially agree with that because they can never see themselves in the industry. So my goal was to change that. So from there, I had this great brand going. I then had an influencer from LA come in, rip off the whole brand. After multiple cease and desists, I decided to take a step back. I realized that I was just pushing forward and it wasn't really working out for me. I wasn't resonating with the brand anymore. It wasn't aligning with who I am. It wasn't aligning with who I was essentially becoming. So I took 2 years off, ended up going into HVAC and water metering sales, which crazy. I'm not even going to get into how I got into that because it's just so off topic. But essentially did that for 2 years, met amazing people, built a great network, loved what I was doing, and was building a clothing brand, again, behind the scenes. And it took me a long time to get to the point to finally launch again. I would say almost 3 years now, because I was kind of so ashamed of my failure. And I realized that recently I realized that I didn't want to be defined by that anymore. And also, if you look at many successful people, it's usually their second or third time that they are launching or doing something, or it's like a new venture that they've already done in the past that has made them so successful. So I finally decided just to go for it. After building this brand behind the scenes for the last 6 months, I figured it was time just to forget about my past, stop letting it hold me back and define me, and to just really just fall into who I've become.
I want to note something, because being your sister, I think I get the VIP ticket into how this has happened, right? Yeah. So I want to say that it takes a lot of courage and guts for somebody to take something that they were talking. She had a pretty big following base on social media and everything. And
you're saying with the influencer
beforehand, yeah. Well, you had 80,000 followers on your TikTok, and then take that and then kind of just be like, okay, I'm done with that, move on, and then come back to it. That takes a lot of courage to realize that that's my passion and this is where I want to be. So from someone, yes, I'm on the inside, but also looking out for your influence, that's huge to me, right? And I think a lot of young girls, even not even young, females in general, need someone like that to look up to, right? Is that you can say, hey, look, I fucked up, or whatever happened is in the past, and I'm gonna go forward and do something big.
I think that was the hardest part, because I completely removed myself for a portion there off social media entirely. And if you know me, you know I love posting my outfits. I love like influencing young girls. I love creating a community. I love like having these conversations and inspiring and mentoring and doing all of that. So removing myself was, honestly, I kind of felt selfish in a way because I had so many young women that did look up to me, but I had to go through a phase where I just had to completely clear my head and find out who I was. So yeah, I went from deleting my business account to my personal account to then moving on to other social platforms, such as TikTok. And I gave up like huge following numbers, but I'm building it back up again. And it's happening a lot faster than I would have thought. And I know if I did it once, I can definitely do it again.
And that's a very strong point there. I think that kind of sums up our first question, which is kind of how you fell into the industry, but there's so much more to that question that I know of. So tell us about how you fell into the industry, and kind of go more deeper into your challenges with the industry.
Yeah, so I think like growing up when I was really young, I wasn't the type to necessarily like read like a book, but I would definitely pick up a magazine even at the age of like 10, 11 years old. What I think is different from me compared to other young girls is that I could visually look at a magazine and not be like, oh, I need to look like that. And my mindset was really not toxic, and I really have my mom to thank for that, for always making me feel good about who I was, my height, my weight, all of that. So I'm really lucky to have had an influence like that. But some girls don't have that. So growing up, you're looking at these magazines or you're looking at this, like now there's social media, so it's even worse from when like I was little. But you're looking at this and you're like, I don't look like that. I want to look like that. And I think for me, it was like, okay, I'm 5'1", I'm curvier, I have a different body type than a lot of these supermodels that I'm looking up to. How do I essentially like find myself in industry? And honestly, like I know this is controversial and I've said this in another podcast, but until like Kim Kardashian's body type came into the world and she blew up as fast as she did, the concept of having a different body type wasn't as common. Now it's like great, like having diverse body types, plus size, different shapes, like all of that, it's great. But it wasn't as common when I was growing up. So for me, the most influential part of Unlabeled is the day I launched, is I've had so many girls reach out to me and they're like, oh my God, I have never seen a girl who looks like me in a fashion ad. And now we're talking, this was now like 5 years ago. So 6 years ago. So this is like even before the whole Skims came into play, right? And my first campaign for Unlabeled was actually a modeling casting. And what I did is I took the girls, and we were like just before like COVID. So like I really couldn't even have the girls together in one room. So I was shooting them one-on-one on Polaroids. And I was literally finding these girls like
that we
going for a jog. Yeah. Like I'd be like, you're gorgeous. I love how natural you are. Like you need to model for me. Like I did not use anybody who was an actual model. Like I wanted like real, and not to say models aren't real girls, but I just wanted girls that other girls could relate to more. That was essentially the goal. And honestly, the feedback I got the day I launched, that was like a wow moment. It wasn't even the sales that were coming in. It was the fact that girls were like, thank you. Because, and one in particular, she was Asian, and she's like, to open like a modeling casting and the first girl that I see is an Asian girl, like she was like, like the message she sent me was insane. And like, I've never had more positive feedback ever in my life.
Wow. Interesting.
I think you guys can relate to this because I know you're in the fashion world and I've seen this. So you can express yourself in a lot of ways in the fashion world. And you've proven this, that fashion was your way to prove who you were to the world. You said that when we were growing up, you always found a way to express yourself and show who you were, right? Yeah. And you did that through clothing. I know you guys like to do that too. And I think fashion is the best way to express yourself because it shows no bearing on, you can be anyone and express yourself through fashion, right? So, and you've done the perfect job at showing that. And even through your new business, mm-hmm. maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your new venture and how the past has kind of influenced where you are right now, what you're doing right now.
I think with Unlabeled, my main goal was to like prove I was diverse and prove I was different and prove I was inclusive. And what I learned over the last few years is that saying something and doing something are very different things. And I think to be all those things that I wanted, like Unlabeled ethos of the brand to really come out, can happen without you essentially having to say it. So I know what I always attract to when I'm planning marketing and I'm picking models and everything. I'm going to be all those things that I really wanted Unlabeled to be, but now I'm just not saying it and I'm just doing it. And I think that was a huge difference, and that was something I had to learn, that I was so focused on building this inclusive brand that I was like losing sight of it. But now I'm like, no, like I know what I attract to. I know the girls that I have around me. I know how to essentially build a brand again. I don't need to focus on that being my motive. So my goal was really to use that just as like my marketing goal, of course, just to have it there, just to work on it and do it, but essentially go a different route. And that was creating luxury items that are attainable to obviously a bigger market, but that can also essentially elevate different looks. So I wanted all stretch fabrics, which I think I nailed on the
What's
fabric.
the name of your new company?
Oh, the new company name is Serve.
Unlabeled was the previous one.
Unlabeled is the previous one. Serve is the current one. I should have mentioned that before. Yeah. So Serve is the current one. And I think the name really started because I was looking for something like short, brief, like something that people would remember. Also, when I see it on a tag or I see it long-term in retail, I really like how like clean and concise it is. And then it really derived from my last name. So I wanted to somehow incorporate me in there, because I feel like I always try to remove myself. But realistically, if I'm building a brand that's so close to who I am and I really wanted to focus on authenticity, I knew I had to put myself in there.
You're the brand.
Yeah.
That's it. Even goes any business, any industry, us.
Yep.
We carry ourselves. You are the brand. People will buy your product not because of the product, but probably because of how comfortable and how familiar they are with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's essentially what's happening right now. Is I haven't put anything on anybody else but myself so far, other than the people that have received their packages. And I've managed to just basically build all the sales that I have.
Shout out to Laura. We did put it on Laura.
Yeah. All the sales that I have are literally just from being posted on me. And that's pretty crazy considering I haven't even like focused on outside marketing yet. So
It's very interesting how you started Unlabeled.
yeah.
That didn't go the way it planned. You sat back, reflected, which is a
Reflect.
big word for 2024 for us.
Yeah.
Shout out to Danielle this time.
You reflected back, looked back on your past, and it took some time as well for you to come with this new brand in which is skyrocketing right now.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts, to be honest, right? So that experience, I guess for people who've been in that situation before where they failed and don't know how to get back on the wagon again or get back to, that reach that moving target or their goal, what kind of advice can you give these kinds of business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone who's
who went through the struggle,
looking,
right?
look.
The one piece of advice that really helped me is that no one is ever thinking what you are thinking about yourself. And that was one thing I really had to engrave in my mind, because I was always like, if I post this and I come back and I do this, what are people going to say?
It's like that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
think
then
it's
sat
so
back
common.
and I'm like, anything that I've ever thought is just coming from myself. No one else is saying to me, why is this girl posting this? Why is this girl doing this? Like, no one's ever going to think that. If anything, people are going to look at me and be like, wow, that's crazy. Like, good for her for doing that again. So that's the one piece of advice for anyone that is like trying to rebuild or has experienced some sort of failure. I would say, like, never let them define you. Never listen to your own intrusive thoughts, because I can promise you no one is thinking anything that you were negatively that you were thinking about yourself. Yeah.
So
That's facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
It's so true, right? Like, we always have negative things to say about ourselves and in our heads that I'm sure, like, for me, this happens every day.
Everyone
that's
sort of
huge,
thinks that failures
and
are
nobody,
bad.
and you've said this to me before, nobody's thinking that, Sam.
Yeah.
Like, you are crazy. Like, I'll say the wildest things, and it's true, right? It's very true.
how did you find yourself to be able to build a brand twice now
Yeah.
that you've built that obviously have surrounded your beliefs and your vision for what you want the future of fashion to look like. So how did you find yourself in order to do those things?
It's a very deep question, but I think I had to get down to rock bottom. So literally got down to like the skeleton of who I was. And what I mean by that is it felt as if I had everything that I ever worked for ripped from me.
Yep.
So when I sat back for the last 2 years and was like, okay, I'm not going to focus on my career and I'm not going to focus on the relationships around me. I'm going to focus on myself only. And I spent 2 years like actually figuring out what makes me happy, what I enjoy doing, and what allows me to positively influence the people around me. And I think that was the route to coming back and essentially now being in my later 20s, being like, wow, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm so happy with who I am. And I only need the people around me who want to be there. But again, like I always say things like, bad things do not happen to you because they're meant to happen. They happen for a reason, right? And like I would not be who I am or have gone to this point if I didn't go through that. And when I look back, I'm like, compared to what Serve is today, I don't even want Unlabeled.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to say that out loud, but like I think I even like how neutral it was and just like the overall branding of it. It's so, when you know me, you know that I'm like, I am maximalist and I do like color and I am more fun and like I do like to break barriers when it comes to like marketing and like art and things like that. So I think that once I got down to my core and literally only focused on what defined me, that's when I was able to build something like Serve.
Wow.
That was deep.
Very
But
deep.
it's
That
like
was-
the
that was
most like the most.
I think you
truths I
realize
could
who you
ever
are in your rawest form,
Yeah.
right? You have to get down to your bones and be really, really vulnerable with yourself.
entirely.
Yeah.
I think in any industry, evolution is a really important thing. I think it's important to the hardest thing. Let me say this: the hardest thing for anybody to do is to look introspectively and find out what they're doing wrong and be honest with yourself about the things you're doing wrong, or to be honest with yourself about who you truly are. Like I think that's so scary
it's hard.
and so hard to do.
But yeah.
But I think you can't evolve anything, whether it's a business, whether it's yourself as a person, whether it's a relationship. You can't push those things forward unless you've had time to sit with yourself, look at yourself in a mirror and say, do I like who I'm looking at? And who am I looking at? And if you're not willing to do those things, you're never going to grow. So
Yeah, and I agree. And that was something else I did when I was like doing a lot of inner work was, okay, this is let's say the influencers or the women or the people around me that I admire. What do they have that I don't have? So what habits do I need to instill in my daily life to be that person, right? Because it's like I can say that, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur who does all these things and I'm so successful and I want to be like all these different brands like Asta Resort, for example, and go on and on and on. But it's like, okay, I need to get to where these founders are, right? So what are the steps that they're taking every day that I need to take to get there? Because it doesn't just happen overnight, and you can't just sit there and be like, oh, I want to be successful and I want to be just like Kona Walker, or she's the owner of House of CB. But essentially, you can't just say you want to be like these people without actually putting in the work. So that was something I really had to look inwards and say, okay, I need to figure out the different routine, different habits, focus on what makes me happy entirely, and that will allow me to get there. Yeah. I'm nowhere near where those women are, but I know that I'm on my way there.
And I think that's where most successful business people struggle. So that's something I can say for my own self. I'm not afraid of it. You figure that out now before everything else comes, right? Whereas a lot of people figure that out as they're in the business and as they're in the hustle, which is probably more destructive to find out as you go before figuring it out.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And that's like speaking from personal experience, right? You have to establish who you are as a person and know who you want to be every single day and commit to waking up as that person for you to move forward every single day successfully without any issues. And I think that's the key. I saw you do that. You worked out, you changed your lifestyle habits. I think a lot of people, you changed who you talk to, like your scenes. And I think that was huge, right? Like,
yeah,
that was biggest influence probably on
and it's hard because you get comfortable and change is uncomfortable and unlearning is harder than learning,
Well, Nat says this, you become complacent.
Yeah.
I think complacency is the biggest killer in the world.
Entirely.
I mean, like, actually, like, if you really look at it, like, even the cause of death of a lot of people now, which, you know, is lack of health, obesity, heart failure, right? It's all complacency because you aren't willing to change your lifestyle. You're not willing to change anything about you. Complacency is so dangerous. It's dangerous for me at the very least. Like, when I become complacent, I become I become almost lethargic within my whole life. Right?
And for you to realize that is huge, because in my situation, I'm going to count myself lucky, even though I've been through all these things, is that I was forced to change. I was in situations that I was literally put up against a wall. There was no other option for me. So being complacent wasn't an option, right? So, but for some people, they just sit unhappy, or like you said, they have all these medical issues, or like different things are going on in their life, and they're choosing to be complacent. So yes, I know being uncomfortable, it's crazy that I would call myself lucky, but I do think looking back, I was lucky to be put in the situations that I had no other choice but to make moves.
Absolutely.
I don't think anything happens with luck. I think it happens not by chance, but also what you're doing every day, right? And sometimes, not to go this route, but God has a plan for everybody. And in my opinion, everything's written. If that's the way it was supposed to happen, that means there's so much more in store for you as a person. And your story serves that truth, right? And shows that.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so that was facts. I think we went really deep today. Nat likes to go deep.
I'm so into this. Like all this, like
she likes to manifest. She taught me how to do it.
Well, I think, like, even as far as podcast goes, I think people enjoy listening to people be honest. That's which podcasts I think get the most traction. I think that's what people really love to listen to, is people's honesty. Even now, like, if you go on YouTube, you'll see one of the most popular videos to watch is people's reactions to other things, which is so strange. To watch somebody react to something else is like the weirdest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah, but it's human empathy.
Like, people enjoy seeing other people's realness. So if these are the vibes for season 3, it's going to be a great season.
Yeah, this is going to be a good start, good flow so far.
What we want to do for season 3.
Growth.
Yeah, I think you're the perfect example. This is the perfect example of what we want to do. Is
I'm glad you picked me to be here.
Really influence people who are going through real life scenarios. Like, what you went through is real life, and it's local, it's close to home, right? And a lot of people don't know what you experienced and went through. So thank you for coming here and telling us.
And it's real and authentic.
Yeah. It's not fake. We're faking this shit.
I had never really shared it because it's like, I was almost like ashamed of what I went through. And then I actually had people that I thought were friends say to me, I don't believe you. And I'm at home in tears for like 3-4 weeks at a time. And I'm being told that they don't believe me. So I think now I'm like, no, I'm going to share what happened to me, and I'm going to be proud of it. And I'm going to help others by sharing and by talking about it.
Yeah. I think that's perfect segue to our final and favorite question.
Best question.
Big question.
The show. Is what makes you the real deal?
I like this question.
She loves this.
I would say what makes me the real deal is my experience and passion. So I have been in the industry, hands-on, working with both men and women since I was about 16 years old, from styling to mentoring to physically going in on a branding side and understanding how different people want to run their businesses. And then my passion for it, like my whole life is surrounded around essentially clothing and how it makes people feel, which the term is called enclothed cognition, if anyone wanted to look it up. But yeah, so I think that makes me the real deal. I always say that's my strength over anyone else. And it to be my age and to have worked with the people I've worked with and done what I've done, I think that's something I'm extremely proud of. And it took me this long to get to this point in my life this year, or 2023, to realize that I am amazing, and like I need to use that to help other people. Yeah.
Good answer.
Very good answer.
Very good answer. And you should be so fucking proud of the work you've put in to be where you are. And it's only up from here.
That's true.
And I love you, and thank you for joining
Love you
us.
too.
This is very
Thanks,
special,
guys.
and yeah, the world needs to hear your story.
This was great. I feel
Yeah.
good. It was like therapy.
Yeah, therapy with Nick, Naz, and Sam. We're gonna change the name of this podcast.
Gonna change it from the real deal to therapy
Yeah.
every Friday.
Okay, guys. So I think if you guys got anything left to say to Nat?
No, that was awesome. Thank you for coming on.
I think
problem.
everyone enjoyed listening to that for sure. Actually, where can people find more information about
yeah.
you, your
How do
brand?
we get styled by
Camera
Nat?
2.
And how do we buy
Okay,
serve?
great.
Camera 2, plug away.
Okay, so
Oh,
you
camera 1.
Camera
Plug
one,
away on
okay.
camera 1.
All right, so my personal handle is my name, Natalie Servello, and if anyone has any questions or do want any like mentoring meetings or anything, I'm totally into doing that and going into detail, so you can message me there. And then my brand is at Serve the Brand, both on Instagram and TikTok, and you'll be able to see all my styles, what's up and coming, and any campaigns I have coming up.
And shop the website.
And then, yeah, you can shop the website and message me if you have any questions about sizing or fabric or any of that. But thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nat.
And until next time.
Next time, we are the real deal.
See you next time.